Hi and welcome back to the second video in our wing foiling series where we're going to be talking about getting flying and staying flying in those lighter winds. If you haven't already checked out the first video in the series where we're talking about how the foil works under your feet and how best to control it when you start to fly, definitely check that video out. And also look out for the third video in this series coming soon where we're going to be talking about doing jibes and going switch stance. We hope you find these videos useful and they help you overcome some of what we feel are the main common stumbling blocks when it comes to wing foiling. So let's talk about getting flying and staying flying in the lighter winds. Now the great thing about foiling is you don't need very much wind to get up. I'm 75 kilograms and I can get foiling in 10 knots. It's mainly down to technique and being efficient with both the foil and the wing, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. 3 steps really to get you up and flying and staying flying in those lighter winds. First step, we're going to be learning how to use the wing effectively. Then we're going to be talking about learning how to pump and use the board and foil effectively. Then we're going to be learning how to bring them both together with the correct timing to make sure you get as much power and speed to get you up on the foil in as light a wind as possible. So first off, let's talk about the wing and making sure we can get enough power in it to use it effectively to get us up onto the foil. But the good thing about this is this technique here we're talking about with the wing, you can also translate and do on a standard SUP, so it isn't just about the foil. You've probably already got the grasp of where the powerful position is when you're flying your wing going back across the water. Having it really up high might be a bit easier in your arms, but it's not going to produce as much power as having it slightly down lower in the position right in front of you. Having it really far down to the water might feel a little bit more powerful, but it doesn't offer you that much lift. So it's a middle ground between having it really high up in the air and having it really low down. There are a few different techniques you can do when you're pumping with your wing. You do see some people just sort of shaking their wing. That can work, it's not that efficient really. The other technique, you might have seen me in the other clips before, is I might just pull my back hand in a little bit, keeping my front hand still, and that will give me a little bit of power just to maybe help me get up onto the foil. But the real technique to getting you up in lighter winds is having that circular motion when it comes to pumping. You may have seen other riders, other videos about this. This is where you're bringing your wing in a circular motion and you're really pulling yourself and you're pulling the power into the wing as it comes downwards towards you, and then you're resetting the wing, it's going back up and then downwards towards you. It's a constant cycle like that. So the main power phase of the wing, remember, is when you're pulling the wing down towards you, back up, down towards you. The reason this is so much more effective than just going in and out with your wing, the first reason is when you pull in like that, yes, you are going to feel that there's going to be power and the wing is going to be loaded up, but you've also then got to push the wing out again in sort of the directly opposite motion. And if you imagine if you're doing that, you've got a lot of area of air and wind potentially that's behind your wing that you're pushing your wing straight back into. And that's really stalling the efficiency and the wing itself. You're not actually going to find you're going to do it very quick because you're going to be pushing your wing back towards other wind, which is basically going to make it backwind. And in light wind conditions, sub 10 knots, 11 knots, when the wind isn't moving very quickly, if you're doing that motion really quickly, you might be trying to move your wing faster than 10 knots backwards. So it's not going to make it very efficient. So if you're pulling your wing down towards you and you're resetting it by going up, what you're actually effectively doing is you're climbing up over that wind behind the wing. It's a little strange thing to understand, and yes, you've still got a lot of area that you're pushing backwards in that same motion, but it really does make a massive difference when you do it on the water or on land. You can really feel how much more efficient that is compared to that. So get your head into that. You're doing a much more circular motion. You're climbing up over the wind in effect behind it, and you're pulling it in, up, in, up, in. It's a great technique to learn to do on land and really get the hang of it. The other reason why that's really good is because as you're pulling your wing down towards you, in the opposite direction, especially if you're trying to get up with your foil, you're trying to go up towards the wing. So you've got two forces that are working exactly against each other or with each other to get the same effect. You're trying to pull the wing down, you're trying to pull your foil or get your foil up. Now when you bring the wing down, you don't want it to come down so low that the wingtips catch. You want to make sure that you're coming down low enough, but you have enough space to redirect your wing back up and reset it again. So that will take a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, making sure that circular motion is sort of working efficiently. If you want to try one step further with that, I will warn you it's a little bit more technical. As you come down with your pump, you can actually pull in with your backhand a little bit more to give you a little bit more lift. And I actually find that is the real trick to getting a little bit more power out of your wing. But it does take, again, a bit more timing. But the more you do it, the more you practice it, the easier you're going to find it. And the last thing you need to be doing with this wing motion, give it 110%. That extra little pump, that extra bit of energy is the difference between making it up onto your foil and not making it up onto your foil. Okay, so now let's talk about pumping the board and foil. This technique you can do without doing the wing, but we'll speak about it with the wing in a minute. But definitely when you start off with, you might want to not do it while you're pumping the wing. When you have your foil board on the water and it's not on the foil and it's not really moving fast enough to become up onto the foil, it's going to feel quite sticky to the water. What I mean by that is it's going to feel slow and boggy and it's going to feel like it hasn't got much release. One of your first jobs is you want to try and make the board release. You want to try and make the board become unstuck from the water, which is why so many brands do different designs. This starboard is a great example here. They've got channels down the back, all to focus water flow and to focus you to be able to release the water and to stop the board from sticking. The way you want to start doing that is you want to start putting weight between your front and back leg to initiate. It initiates the foil, but also it starts the board from unsticking. It lets air get into those sort of channels that are on the board, or lets air just get underneath the board and release that water from the actual board surface. So if you just start off by going across the wind, remember we're talking about going across the wind here, and just start to rock the front and back leg, your front and back leg up and down. Now you have to be quite aggressive again with this because there's no point in just making a bow wave. You want to really focus on trying to get this nose of this board up, stomping the tail down and getting air forcing under the back of the board. This is where having foot straps on a board will help. It's sort of like cycling with clipped-in shoes. You have so much more upward lift at the same time as downward lift. So as you pull your front leg up, you could be pulling up with your foot strap, you can pushing down as you pull down, up with your back foot strap. It's all working to a little bit more efficiently. So again, if I'm talking about getting up in super light winds, I'm talking about using foot straps here. I can get up without foot straps, but it is a lot more effective to get up with foot straps for sure. But this technique is exactly the same whether you're going to be using foot straps or not, so that's just completely up to you. At the same time as what's happening with your board on top of the water, you're trying to lift it and get that water to release off the bottom, the foil is obviously connected to the board. So whatever you're doing on the board, it's doing something to the foil. So your board is trying to release, but at the same time, your foil is actually trying to get more water flow over it. The more water, or the speed that the water passes over the foil, the more chances are you're going to get lift, because that's how it all works. The faster airspeed, remember the airplane's going, the easier it flies up. We're talking about water speed. The faster the water travels over the foil, the easier you're going to get up. So with this up and down motion, what you're trying to do is you're trying to increase water speed or water flow over the foil. Generally when you go up, you will increase it a little bit, but it's really about when you come down, you're going to be able to push the weight down and push the water over the foil faster. So this is the big thing to bear in mind. You will be doing it and you'll be thinking, this is not working. This is a complete waste of time. I'm making loads of water, my legs are tired. What's the point? The point is, there is a split second when it's completely not working to, oh my word, it's working. And I suddenly feel the foil engage, I feel the board release. So this is a feeling thing here. The more you do it, the more you know when that point will come, that the more efficient you're going to be. And that's going to have to come over time, there's no doubt about it. But it does happen quickly when you get to the point when there's enough flow over the foil and enough release with the board. When this point occurs, so you're just rocking back and forth, you're rocking back and forth, and then suddenly the board feels a little bit lighter than it did before. And that's because you've actually climbed up a little bit onto the foil. The foil has started to initiate. The tail of the board maybe is the only part of the board that's just touching. This is the crucial point when you have to make hay while the sun shines. You need to take advantage of this point. Imagine the airplane's just taken off. The wheels are off the ground. He's going to bring the nose down slightly, and then he's going to bring it up again. And then he's going to bring the nose down slightly, and he's going to bring it up again. When you dip the nose down on the airplane, or you dip your foil down, you're going to accelerate because gravity is going to help you. You're going to fall back down. As you fall back down, the water flow is going to increase, giving you more speed, and you're going to find more lift. So then when you pump back up, you'll have more lift. So think about it as when you climb up onto the foil, as soon as you release that board and it just about comes unstuck, you're going to be climbing up, flattening off, dipping down, climbing up, flattening off, dipping down, climbing up, flattening off, dipping down. But you're going to be doing it in a step sort of motion. Up, 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 foiling. All of this main sort of stepping up onto the foil happens in about 3 to 5 seconds maybe. If you've got a bigger board, it's a little bit slower. So it's very, very quick. But the rhythm is the same throughout. You started pumping up and down with your board. Yeah, your board starts to release. You're still pumping up and down, but you're aware that the board is just releasing. And then as you pump down, when your foil is in the air, you're maybe a little bit more aggressive on your downstrokes because it's going to give you more lift, it's going to give you more speed over the foil. So I really hope this is making sense, and maybe thinking about it as you climbing up steps with your foil, it might give you a better understanding of how it all works. Now, if you're doing it right, your legs are going to be burning. Your legs are going to be burning, you're going to be tired, your thighs are going to be killing you because you are putting a lot of weight into this board. Now, there's no doubt having a shorter baseboard will be much easier. Boards like this, 6'3" and down, 6'5" and down, you know, if you're into the sub 6 foots, less swing weight up there, that's going to make a massive difference because as you're pushing up, you're trying to elevate this weight at the front up, and it's going to help you when you come back down, but initially it's getting up, it's a harder bit to gain. Okay, both these things we've spoken about now, the board and the foil, and the wing in a circular motion to produce power, they're both feeling things, which is why it's like an exponential curve. The better you get at it, the even more efficient you are because you know how it should feel. You know if you're doing the right things. You know if the board is feeling pretty sticky and you're not really being efficient with your feet. So when you start off, you're having to learn all of this muscle memory. You're having to learn how this should feel, and it will take time, and you will have very subtly different techniques to doing this. So don't worry if you can't get it first off. You know, take your time, relax, think about it. Think about how it's happening under the water, like I said in the first video. Think about how your wing is working in the air, and think about maybe how efficient you could be and how you're not being efficient maybe. The next step is bringing these two together, and this is where it really makes a massive difference. Definitely try them separately. Bringing them together, it's sort of, if you can sing in a choir, it's together, it's the rhythm, it's a feeling thing again. When you're pulling your wing down towards you, I'm generally leaning back on my leg and trying to create the lift in the foil. And then when I'm rotating the wing back up to take it start again, I'm forcing my foil down in the water. I'm letting gravity take control there because it's going to help me. So wing comes down, foil goes up. Wing comes down, foil goes up. So I'm doing this motion, and then up you go, and then you start to fly. Sounds easy, doesn't it? But if you can get those timings together, you will be flying in lighter winds, and it will make a massive difference to getting you up early. When it comes to staying flying when you're in lighter winds, or maybe you're flying across your lake and you see a shiny patch of water coming up, that means that there's a lull, there's less wind there, there's no gust. A gust, remember, is a darker patch of water where there's more ripples on the surface. So you think you're going to be coming into a lull, a lighter wind patch. The easiest thing to do is to try and generate this speed flow again with this foil, and that is going to be doing exactly the same sort of technique as we did earlier, getting up in lighter winds, just leaning forward, leaning back, leaning forward, leaning back. Subtle movements, doesn't have to be anything big. Maybe it's only, 6 inches, what's that, 20 centimeters in total between up and down. You'll probably also pump a little bit with your wing as well, automatically. And just keeping that flow over the foil will keep you riding through those less windy patches. When you're actually up and foiling, you need less wind than actually to get up and foiling. So actually, if it's 10 knots, I can get up and foiling in. It can drop down to 8 knots, 7 knots, and I can still foil through it just by staying efficient with holding your wing and staying efficient with your foil. What I mean by that is being quite light on your foil, not sort of stamping your feet around the board, treading lightly. Imagine if you were rolling to the petrol station and you've run out of gas in your car, you're just touching that accelerator pedal, you're not moving at all. That's the same sort of thing. You're just going to be cruising along, and if you're dropping speed, you're not going to make it, then you might put a few pumps in to get you through that lully patch. Okay, let's talk about some extra things you could think about. Definitely look out for the gustier, windier patches. If you are riding in those light wind conditions, you need as much help as possible. Even if you are really efficient with your pumping, I'm constantly looking around for the darker patches where there's a little bit more wind or a little bit more push, just to make it my pumping with my wing and my feet a little bit more efficient. So look out for those darker patches where the gusts are. Another point, if you're a heavier person, unfortunately it's going to be harder for you to get up. You're going to be having to really look at your kit choice a lot more than somebody who's lighter. Unfortunately, when I get up in sort of 10 knots of breeze, I'm using a sort of 15 to 1800 centimeter front wing. It's generally a little bit more high aspect ratio. What I mean by that, it's a little bit longer and thinner, but I still can get up with a more traditional base foil. It just takes a little bit longer. It's maybe not so efficient for me. If you're a heavier person, let's say you're up into the 100 kilos, 110 kilos, getting bigger front foils is going to make a massive difference. It will even make a massive difference at my weight and less. Bigger foils are going to be easier for jibing and everything, which we'll speak about soon, but bigger foils are going to give you more lift, and they're going to keep you flying across the wind in those lighter winds for sure. So kit choice is a real key when it comes to being really efficient in lighter winds. We could do lots of other videos on that, to be honest. It's a big old subject, but you will see people maybe at your local lake or your coast where you're winging. If they're getting up in really light winds, yes, it's technique, yes, it's timing. It could also be kit choice. They could also have a foil that's maybe twice the size of yours. But if you can learn the technique, you're more than halfway there. And it's much easier to buy a foil than it is to learn a technique, isn't it? Bigger wings will also make a difference as well, allowing you to have more power and more pull. But remember, there will be a point where the bigger wing will be harder to move in the air. It will be harder to do that circular motion. If I'm using this 4.5 meter go compared to the 5.5 meter, the 5.5 meter will offer me a bit more power, but it's a lot slower to move around, so I can't generally get as many pumps in that circular motion. So don't always think that the biggest wing is going to give you the most power, especially if you're efficient with your pumping. If you're not so efficient with your pumping, then yes, the bigger wing will give you more power. And remember, when you are riding, just cruising along, the bigger wing will give you more power. But with efficient pumping, you might find the smaller wings a little bit easier. So with the right technique and the right gear and the right timing with your board and wing, you can get yourself up in super light wind conditions, and you can keep flying in those light wind conditions as well. So we really hope you found this video useful and it helped you understand more about getting up in those lighter winds. Hopefully we've given you loads of practice when you get out in the water next time. Look out for the next video where we're going to be speaking about foiling jibes and going switch stance. Remember, as always, if there's anything I've said you don't understand in any of these videos, drop a question in the comments below. Or if you've got techniques you find that really help you, get them in the comment as well. If you're new to SUPboarder, make sure you check out the website. There's tons of content on there. We see winging as a great accessory alongside SUP, whether you're on or off the foil, which is why we're bringing you these videos. Thank you for watching, and we hope you join us for the rest of our video series soon.